Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Cowboy. It is Tuesday, and it is effectively the market opened today. Yesterday was a holiday in the US and Canada, and who knows where else. So in about an hour, we have the market opening up, but the futures market has been pretty brutal. Brutal. Look at this. We got the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is down. Let's see here. Monday, Tuesday. So the futures market opened up Sunday at about 23,450, and it's down 23,170, which, in the scheme of things is notable. That is a pretty big move down for the market that's been basically closed for a couple of days. That is a 1.5% move down in the futures. So that's an indication that we'll see a dump down as the actual NASDAQ opens up. So that'll be pretty interesting, to say the least. We also have, let's see here, algorithmically, definitely short-term bearish. We're at a point in the market now where a lot of the bullishness that has pushed this market up for as long as it has is starting to reach a crossroads. Now, it's not to say that it will not come right back up. It is the stock market, but nothing goes up forever. And what we've seen now is a bit of a topping pattern. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, effectively, this looks almost like a head and shoulders, kind of a weird stretched out one. But what's most important to look at, to keep it really simple, is that, and this is on the daily chart, right? So we saw the NASDAQ make new highs, and that was on Thursday, the 31st of July. And then it made an even higher new high on August 13th. And then we saw an attempt to reclaim that high. And that was at, let me see, Thursday, the 28th of August. Excuse me, we got sick kids in the house, and I'm fighting whatever it is. So excuse me if I sound a bit nasal. So anyway, we do have this move down over the last couple of days, though. And the attempt to reclaim that high, that has been rejected, right? So price couldn't get back above this 24,070-ish all-time NASDAQ high. And of course, all the other indices, if you look at the Dow, or that's the SP 500, they're kind of similar. The SP 500 and the Dow made new highs, right? But they still have the same kind of bearish look to them on a higher time frame. From an algo standpoint. So we could still see them do the same as the NASDAQ, but the NASDAQ move to the downside seems to be a bit more volatile and generally a bit more tradable. So what might happen next? Well, shoot, if I were looking at this, the way I would handle it, and I keep this really simple, everybody, and we'll look at Bitcoin next, so stand by. We have a local low at 23,039, and then we have kind of a midterm low, if you will, local, but more important of a low at 22,765. And then if we go back, we have a fair amount of liquidity sitting at 22,440. Now, this is the kind of the future, if you will, what we might look at coming up here. Morning, Via the Gorilla. How are you, sir?
Good morning, buddy.
What we might be looking at here is some weak economic data dropped this week, which would then give the market and give Powell and everybody else at the Fed, give them their reason to go ahead and do a surprise 50-point basis cut. And I know a lot of people will give me the side eye for that one, but it's something I've been talking about for months. And the data that's coming out this week in particular, let's go ahead and extend this calendar. We might see the data that kind of causes the stock market to either dump really hard or start to come back up. See, Tuesday the 2nd. So 8 a.m. today, there is the manufacturing PMI. That might, any of these data, if they're way, way, way different to the estimate, then that's when you would see, okay, maybe a big move. The more likely suspects might be the jobs data, and that's Wednesday, and that's 10 a.m. EST. Let's go ahead and make sure I've got the right time here. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, I had that right. So 10 EST, that's on Wednesday. Thursday, we always have the unemployment claims. That's a week over week number, might not be that important, but we do have a little more data that day. So any of these data that come out on over the next week or so, maybe Friday's employment data, that's a lot of people are watching that. So if you notice that these come out very weak, like meaning we have weakness in the economy reflected in this data and it's inordinately weak, then that could be like, okay, the market's going to go back up because, oh, it's so weak, we're going to see a rate cut. And we'll see all this reverse. But if we don't see that, if we don't see that kind of a rate cut, then there's a decent chance, even with a priced in 25 basis point cut, that this may continue down to any of these levels. And if I were to trade this, of course, I wouldn't trade on the daily, but I would look for some kind of pullback and wait for the market to open today, right? I'd look for a reaction at this level at 23,040. Now, if it bounces there, given the bearishness nature, unless I were scalping, I'd let this come back up and short, right? Or if it can break through that level and head down like this, then I would go ahead and short that retest. And I'd grab this little trade. This is, again, the daily chart. So if I zoomed in on this right here, you would notice that this would be a nice big trade for somebody who is like intraday, right? So I could, get down to like the 30-minute chart and you'll see that even this trade, even if we get kind of a quick pullback, I wouldn't do it now because the market hasn't opened. But a nice pullback here, that's a nice big trade on the 30-minute. That'll take you through half the day. Or if you get, a strong reaction at that line, at that level, that's how I would trade that. So level by level, everybody, take a look at the support and resistance. Take a look at the pivot points from the past and use that as your guide. V, before we go on to the private live lab, is there anything you want to see while we're watching this?
No.
No. Okay. Let's see how much time we got left. We got some time. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, you can see I've been tracking it.
Weren't we just talking about how this is going to be a major pullback?
Oh, yeah.
What's it at now? Like 109?
109, yeah. It made its way down to 107.
Yep.
And I was kind of tracking this over the weekend. It was a holiday weekend, generally I have weekend for family. I don't really trade. But I do track it for the guys. And I usually stick to tracking Bitcoin outside of requests. And you see that candle right here. This is an indication the price is being held up because it wanted to go further down, if you ask me. Bitcoin was if I back out here, we had this high here at 125. Those are almost 125. That was an all-time high, right? This was back on August the 13th, and price just kept sinking down and down. And then what we ended up seeing was this nasty move down. Price, there was some whale that sold into the floor, and these kind of things happen, and everybody thought it's a conspiracy. And I corrected a bunch of people on Twitter, over on Zero Hedge's Twitter. I'm like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but whatever. And I got a lot of most people liked what I had to say. You got a couple assholes, as you always do. You don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But this candle right here is indication that they may be holding price up, not to go down below 107.3. We would see. And the way I looked at it is, and I told everybody, like in Algo Factory, that if price goes down below 107.30, below this line right here, that I will make more visible for everybody to see. Let's do like that. Below that yellow line, if price were to dip below that and stay below that for a better part of a day, there's a really good chance that it would go down to 103. And it wanted to. It really wanted to. And you can see this candle right here. That's a bullshit candle. This candle right here is a bullshit candle. Somebody held that up. Somebody did not allow this to go down, and that's what it wanted to do, which is fine. I mean, I didn't have any clear trade on it. It wasn't like I'm like, hey, I'm going to short this because I don't short supports in a bull market with Bitcoin. And anytime I do, I lose money. So I just waited to see what would happen. It did not break below. Even if it broke below, I would be concerned about a bear trap, but it simply just got held up. So I get the feeling that until we see the data come out, whatever data matters, whether it's this week, whether it's the Fed in another 2 weeks, because I think the next Fed's like September 16th. Then I would expect price to just go sideways above 107. But it still applies that if price does break below 107.3 and stay down there for, like the better part of a day, or to do it convincingly, or, whatever your metrics are, whatever your algos are, I would expect it to head down to 103. And we could see a bit of a bear trap. But if we do expect even a 25 basis point, but especially a 50 basis point, if that's an unexpected, what I mean to say, okay, let me rephrase that. 50 basis point cut is unexpected. That would be a bit of a surprise, but the data that comes out this week could make that not so much of a surprise, right? So if we get some very weak data on any or all of those data that I mentioned this week, or anything that corresponds next week, that's more than a week to week measure, right? It's got to be like a month over month or a year over year, that we could see this spike up real quick. So that's what I got. Via the Gorilla, can you please get us over to the private live lab, sir?
Absolutely. Hey guys, listen, we are the most preeminent trading group on God's green earth. The only ones that teach you not only how to trade, but to build the algorithms that trade on your behalf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and give you the geopolitical, geostrategic, geoeconomic play-by-play that affects markets globally. Key intel that you can learn to leverage and win in the chaos. Join us, algofactory.tech.
Beautiful. Links in the description for a free algo, guys. Go ahead and do that. And also, don't forget,
join us or die.